Hey people, thank you for stopping by at Building Wealth with Rajiv. Pretty early morning in Singapore. Just finished conversation with Canada-based entrepreneur Yashu Sharma. Yashu runs a YouTube channel as well. Hit that bit. Fantastic channel. Please go and check it out. He regularly talks about Tesla, Tesla stocks, Tesla as a company, Tesla options. We talked about a couple of things. Tesla Q4 earnings, which are due in about 10 to 11 days. Number two, put Tesla with the biggest company in the world. Tesla's competition with Rivian, with Lucid, with GM. I hope you enjoy the conversation. If you like it, please follow the channel as well as share with your friends. Thank you and see you soon. Hey, buddy, thank you so much for giving me time. And I've been watching your videos, awesome stuff, and I'm learning so much from you. You're half my age, but you're teaching me so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rajiv, for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So Tesla. What Q4? I saw the delivery reports and all that stuff was pretty good, right? What's your take on Q4 earnings? It's like in about 10 days from now.
Yeah, earnings is on the 26th of January. Well, we already got the delivery numbers, I think is what you're hinting at. And yeah, 308,000 cars delivered in one quarter for Tesla. Just massive. I think when I saw that, I think my jaw dropped a little bit. I didn't even think it was real because 2020, the whole entire fiscal year, Tesla did 500,000 cars. And to do 308,000 in one quarter, mind you, it is quarter four. So there is a push, right? Quarter fours are usually seasonally high. But for Tesla, it's never been a demand issue. It's always been a supply and production issue. So for them to push out 308,000 cars in one quarter is just, it's craziness, to be quite honest. And so my reaction, I was quite shocked at first. But with everything Tesla, you have to take everything with a grain of salt with the stock price. We saw Tesla jump 15% or close to 15% on Monday, right? Everyone was happy. And then we saw it quickly give up all of those gains with the macro pullback. So super happy with production. I think what's craziest probably about the number to me is that number was with zero contribution from Austin, zero contribution from Berlin. And for the market, right, I think it's important for the market to see that this exponential story isn't ending. In fact, it's just starting, right? And I think a lot of people on the street don't necessarily think that the exponential growth is going to continue or the demand is going to sustain or that Tesla will actually be able to scale manufacturing. And I think quarter after quarter, Tesla is slowly but surely proving even those people on the fence to come on board as Tesla will. So it's exciting times for sure.
And so in terms of results, I'm not particularly fussed about the numbers, but year on year, I think the last quarter they were showing about 90% growth or something like.
It's got to be like that. It was pretty massive. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can pull them up, but it was quite massive. Yes.
And is it like, are you kind of looking at same kind of growth pattern continuing, or?
I think the big wild card this year has really. It has to be what the wild card this year has to be Austin and Berlin. As we talk right now, rumors are that Austin is online starting next week. Today is Friday, so it seems like probably next week we'll start maybe get an official announcement only at earnings, but probably production might begin next week. And then Berlin, we just got alerted today that all signs point towards March deliveries going ahead in Berlin. So the wild card here is really a couple of months, although it doesn't seem like a lot, can make a big difference, I think, for fiscal year count, right? A couple of months can mean the difference between Tesla going from just production testing to actually delivering. And really the big wild card for me is that I don't even know how far Tesla is in terms of testing. They could be very far ahead internally with already testing. I mean, they've been waiting on these factories to come online for quite some time. They've been ready, right? It's just been in Berlin, it's just been just the bureaucracy has been stopping them, right? So for all we know, Tesla could really hit the ground running super, super fast. It's just a matter of time for us to know. But I think run rate by the end of the year, we're looking at close to probably like 2 million cars per year run rate, at least hopefully by the end of this year. So I think the run rate's more important because the next couple of months, who knows, right? What can happen? Something can get delayed again. But I think 1.5 is probably a pretty good baseline for me that I'm looking at 1.5 for this year. The street is at, I think, 1.3. So they're not giving them much, probably that delta is probably just from the new factories for me.
I think it plays good for Tesla, isn't it? His street is underestimating, and if Tesla over delivers, I think then
Absolutely.
I think it's a good thing.
Um,
Yashu, what are you thinking on? I see you talking about FSD, right? I saw you talking about FSD with Emmett, with Dave Lee also, right? And does it look like a reality to you?
FSD, I think it's so easy to divide half of the population into super anti and super for. I think in time, FSD is going to be a thing. Automation and automated driving is going to be a thing. I don't really have that doubt in my head. The doubt in my head, I do have that I'm a little bit different with some people on is timing. I don't believe in bureaucracy. I don't believe in red tape, or pardon me, I don't believe in government speeding up processes like this. Change is hard for government. And so, even though let's concede the argument that Tesla will solve full self-driving. I think I'm in the boat that I think they will. Just give it time. Let's say they solve it tomorrow. Okay, we wake up, Tesla solved it. Even if they solve it tomorrow, who's really bullish on governments approving this by Monday? We see how long it takes for them to get a factory approved, right? And that's a factory where there's going to be tens of thousands of employees. Full self-driving is novel. It's in a lot of places. There, outside of Arizona and Waymo, there's not really like San Francisco. Obviously, it's kind of the mecca of that for now. But I'm pretty bearish on government approval on such technology in the short term. So for that reason, I don't price much of robo taxis into what I look at in Tesla's stock or Tesla's growth story for the next couple of years. But the technology, I'm not an engineer, I don't know, but people that I follow in this sphere talk so much about Tesla's data advantage. And I drive a Model 3. I know it records every single thing that goes on. It sends it back to Tesla HQ. They have algorithms that run on a Dojo, AI as a service, all these software metrics really on what's supposed to be a car company. And, if you listen to someone like Dan Ives, he talks about this a lot. He says, what makes Tesla different right now, at least, is the fact that they can sell software add-ons to their car price on day one. There's not very many other OEMs out there that can charge a software multiple on their car. So, $10,000, now it's $12,000 full self-drive package. So in the short term, I would consider it quite the blessing, quite the surprise on the upside if in the next year we had full self-driving across America making robotaxi income. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's a 5+ year outplay just because of approval. And I think it's inevitable to happen. I think like Elon says, people used to have elevator attendees, right? You're not supposed to run an elevator until there's a worker there that was pushing the buttons and like making sure everything's safe. Now elevators are all automated, right? So there's no such thing as an elevator person anymore. So I think it'll get to that stage. I just don't think it'll be in the next 2 years, but I really hope I'm wrong.
I think with Tesla, things are very unpredictable. You never know. They can come before, after. But how looking at the look? I mean, I know there's a lot to be, and the Tesla story is still starting. I think I believe that we look at it, and what I think it was I think when you're talking about the Wedbush guy, he was talking about 3% EV adoption,
Right.
Right now, and so if you see the addressable market is like huge. And what are you hearing about GM Lucid vis-a-vis Tesla?
Yeah. So you're asking just like my thoughts around GM and Lucid and competing.
Yeah.
So 3% North American adoption, I think, in electric vehicles is the current metric. In China, I think they're closer to 6. I mean, maybe even higher. Actually, I don't know for a fact. But at the end of the day, I'm of the belief that electric vehicle adoption is going to exponentially grow in this decade, and I think quite rapidly. So I think if we just zoom out, right? It's 2022 right now as we sit here. 2030 and beyond, right? It seems like a long time away for a lot of folks, but really it's only 8 years, right? 8 years from now, I think more than half of the market by then at least is or at least the new market is electric. And so if half, and that's probably quite a low estimate, I think, right? So, and this is just this is not of the existing fleet out there. This is just of new auto sales in North America, let's say. And so if it's 50+%, and the new car market globally is what, 70 million, let's say 70, 80 million new cars. The question is like, that's 35 million cars per year that are going to be electric. And I think what analysts, for example, Dan Ives, he talks about GM, being in the race, Ford being in the race, Lucid, Rivian. And I think what happens, there's a Tesla bulls are, and sometimes myself included, are quick to discount those companies. Like, where are they getting the batteries from? Do they have the manpower to actually build EVs? Because building EVs are not like building a regular, internal combustion engine vehicle. Probably the only, everything's different. Like, you can't just switch an internal combustion engine manufacturing plant into an electric vehicle plant overnight. It doesn't happen. It's totally different skill sets as well for labor. So the question here is, who's going to take the chunk of that EV share? And I continue to believe it's going to be Tesla, disproportionately so. I think they have about, I think a lot of forecasts are about 20% market share of electric vehicles for Tesla. I think it'll have to be higher than that, because I don't see the how GM, Ford can really get the suppliers needed to get the battery tech. We see how hard Tesla is working to secure suppliers, how hard they're working to secure manufacturing lines, expanding their gigas. Until you start seeing the same level of investment and the same level of locking in of supplies, because supplies are really going to be of the issue for batteries from a lot of legacy OEMs. And trust me, I really hope they do well, because I want to see a competitive market. It's just hard to see how anyone gets close to Tesla. But back to my point about Dan Ives, he says this a lot. He says it's not about, it's not about Tesla's success coming at the detriment of GM's success coming at the detriment of Tesla. It's not a zero-sum game. We're growing the market. So someone that is an ultra GM fan, or really loves Ford cars, and I actually know older folks in my life that are like that. One of my friends' grandpa only buys Ford, and so those folk, right? If they need options, and they're going to go electric, because remember, the cost of usage of an electric car, maintenance, depreciation is a lot less. More for Tesla, more so for the depreciation, but the cost of ownership is way less. And so they're already going to make the decision to go electric soon enough. And if they don't, the governments are going to make that decision for them eventually, right? Here in Canada, we see internal combustion engines being phased out by a certain year, California. So the question is, which one will do best? GM, Ford, Lucid, Rivian. I think GM and Ford probably carry a little bit too much baggage on them in terms of having to serve two masters, right? They have to serve their current employees and make sure that they do well and the stock does well in their internal combustion engine. Meanwhile, they still have to double dip into electric vehicles. And it's kind of like serving two masters, you serve none. That's why I'm more bullish, let's say, on a Lucid or a Rivian. So if I had to pick, I'd probably say Rivian in the long run, just because of Amazon's investment in Rivian. I haven't done much DD into either one. I used to own Lucid. I used to trade it before it was CCIV, was the SPAC. And it's just valuations are high. That's a different story. But really, I mean, if you look at Rivian, like, Amazon doesn't just invest into companies. Like, Amazon does their DD. They're a tech company. These guys know what they're doing. I believe in Amazon. I quite like Amazon as a company. And so having Amazon's blessing, I think, to Rivian is quite big. Let's see what happens. But that being said, valuations are sky high. They've come down a little bit here in the last couple of months, but like Rivian at over $100 billion market cap with like almost no cars delivered. But here's the effect, right, of Tesla is like Tesla's leading the way. Name other pure EV plays out there. NIO is one, but yes, they have that Chinese kind of, if you want to call it CCP baggage a little bit.
Investors market.
Investors are, that's true. But, North American investors might be a little bit scared or hesitant to invest into as of recent, what's happening. XPeng is another one, but, there's still a smaller scale company. And so as we move forward, I think the valuations are still sky high for me on either one of those. And again, Lucid wants to sell, I think 100,000, I have to double check, 100,000 cars by 2026 or something like that. So, they're not competing really in volume. They're serving a different end of the market, really. And that's fine. I think it's important that we prioritize EV adoption over just Tesla as a monopoly, because the worst thing that can happen to Tesla, as a Tesla bull, I'll say this, is that Tesla is the only player in the game. That's the worst thing. whenever you have a monopoly on a market, what happens? You get lazy, you get a little bit, you think you can make shortcuts, you think you don't have to push as much. Like, why does Apple done so well? Because Samsung has been pushing them. All these other companies push Apple into becoming who they have become. And so if there's no one pushing Tesla in 5 years, I think that's more of a bad thing than a good thing.
No, I think very progressive thought issue, because when I talk to a lot of Tesla bulls, I think it's either Tesla or none.
Yeah,
it's refreshing to hear from you.
And it might be the case though that eventually, like, I mean, not eventually, but it might be true that there will be no person that even comes close to touching Tesla. I think that's probably a likely scenario, but gosh, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, but so I think this brings me to the question, and I've been looking at your, uh, talking about the Tesla valuations and all that stuff. Is there think a lot of these things priced in already? I mean, look, valuation is a subjective game. There's art and science both. But what's your view? Is it already priced in, or?
As we sit here at $1,050, I think is what we closed at today.
Yeah.
I continue to think Tesla is undervalued of where they're sitting at. And by conventional valuation metrics, DCF particularly, we can talk about that later, but by conventional valuation metrics on PE, you can say Tesla delivers a percentage, and I hear this all the time, Tesla delivers a percentage of vehicles that any of these other companies produce, right? And so why is Tesla worth valued so high, or priced in so high? And I think that's short-term thinking, because what you're looking at is 15 years from today. And kind of the general thesis I have is, one, internal combustion engine vehicle cars will be phased out. And if you even just take that one premise, you have to look at Ford and GM, and or any automaker, and you have to start thinking, okay, if in 15 years time, in a lot of countries, like Canada is one that is pushing electric vehicle adoption and continues to do so. Singapore, I'm guessing, is probably the same eventually.
Yeah.
And if that's the premise that we take, you have to look at all of a sudden future valuation and just think for a second, like, how can these companies, like, are they still a going risk in 10 years, right? Like, these companies, if all they've ever done is make ICE cars, and all of a sudden now in 10 years, they're given like a time of like, here's your timer, you have 10 years. All of a sudden now your valuations are going to get skewed, because now that company cannot be in perpetuity. It has to change or adapt or die, right? And so that's one. But the second thing is, Tesla is not just an auto company as well. I think I think currently, just based on auto, I still continue to think it's undervalued for where it's at, just by judging of, I think in 2025, by the end of 2025, they produced 4.5 million cars that year at a 20% operating margin. And that gets us, and even with like a 50 PE discounted back, I think it's still worth about 1,600, 1,700-ish, given on your discount rate today, just for auto. That's my opinion. And that's with a $50,000 average selling price, which, some could argue. And so I continue to look at it just like that, even, and say, okay, for me, I still think it's undervalued. But on top of that, the other layer I put on top, for me, I say to myself, look, Tesla doesn't just sell cars. Eventually, FSD is going to be a big portion of this. For now, you can just consider that margin enhancing if you wanted to discount that. But look at Tesla Energy, right? Why does Tesla have the energy advantage? Well, because what energy and cars have in common are batteries, right? At the end of the day, what you need is to store energy, and you need batteries for that. So it's he who has the most batteries wins, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
He who has the most batteries win. And when I look at the market, who's going to have more batteries than Tesla, right? In 5 years. And so I don't even look at energy for now. I consider, which is crazy, because Elon says, look, energy is going to be worth almost as much, or as much as auto will be eventually, is what Elon's prediction is. And, Elon time, we can talk about how we want to discount, probably multiply by 2, whatever he says. So if he says, but he generally thinks Tesla Energy is going to be worth the same amount as auto. And so when you look at the grand scale of where the world is headed, I think it's obvious to me that EV adoption is increasing exponentially so. And I think it's obvious to me that more and more people want to be their own power grid. They want to be their own utility. And I think solar energy, the reason why it hasn't worked is because storage has been lacking. and more and more people want to get away from the grid, right? We've been seeing in Texas last year, there was that big storm, that big hurricane as well, or tornadoes across the world. And people more and more here in Vancouver, we've had crazy weather this year that's taking down power for actually multiple hours, which is crazy here. And so as people switch and you talk about like a place like India, for example, which I'm really bullish on for Tesla Energy, places like those need their grid problems to be solved. And so Tesla Energy, putting that aside, talk about Tesla Dojo. You talk about Tesla Robobot, right? Which I don't even get into for pricing or anything, because I think it's just too far away for me to honestly put any metrics on at the moment. But all these things just add on that when you look at Tesla, you go, if I just take the baseline of what I think Tesla does, and that's cars for now, 83% of all the revenues, I think is close to 83, is just cars. And then I can come to a valuation for myself where I think they're undervalued. And then I just look through everything else that I haven't accounted for. It's for me, that's why I continue to be a Tesla bull. Now, if I wake up tomorrow and Tesla wakes up and Tesla's at, $5,000 a share, we can revisit the convo about valuation. But as we sit here right now and Tesla's at $1,000 and it's 2022, I think that growth story is still ahead.
And how are you looking at, I kind of look at Cathy Wood. I think she's been right about Tesla, right? That's a claim to fame, right? And her base case is like 3,000. Look, I'm not the valuation issue I'm talking to right now is simply because the state of market we are in. There's a whole lot of panic. I think the Tesla has done well. If you see that it has held up well, right? I mean, there was Elon's tweet on increasing pricing and all FST, and still it held well, and so it shows it has pricing power. Now, Cathy Wood thing is about $3,000, right? Base case. 2025. Yes. That's about 3 times. That's about $3 trillion company, right? Yeah. And what's that looking to you like? I mean, again, nobody's a crystal ball gazer, but you do so much of work, so you might just have some understanding idea on that.
Like, what do I think of her price target?
Yeah. What do you think is 3 times the company by 2000? Because I think you were talking with Wedbush guy, and he was talking about 2026 or something. I don't know.
Thinks, Dan thinks it's about an $1,800 bull case on Tesla at the moment, $1,400 base case currently. That's their 1-year price target. Look, I think with Cathy, I think in times where valuations get slapped, and we're sitting as we talk right now, we've had a tough month and a half for growth stocks. You look at Teladoc, down 50%.
Tough is an understatement issue.
Understatement, right? Tesla still held pretty decently. Actually, I was doing this on the stream. We look at some growth like Roku is down 50% or something like that in the last month and a half. Yeah. It's down massive. But here's the thing. I think this makes sense. We're just in a natural cycle where a lot of money is being pulled out of the market. A lot of money is being pulled out from record high margin or credit that people were taking to put into stocks. And the first thing to always get slapped is any company that isn't making money and is going to be making money 5 years from now, right? Okay. The last and kind of people to sell out of last will be companies that are printing money today, making dividends, right? Yeah. And so it's just, to me, it's a natural cycle. I think money will massively be back into the market as we move into the next couple of years. Like, where else will money have to go? There's record high M2 levels. There's going to be a lot of money back on the table eventually. But I think right now, personally talking, I think growth is super undervalued where it is at the moment. I think it's easy to dunk on someone like Cathy in times where these are obvious market cycles. These don't change the fundamentals of companies, right? What does Tesla, has Roku changed? Maybe Roku. Actually, I don't follow Roku that much. Maybe I won't talk about Roku. Tesla, has it changed from when the Monday came out with deliveries? No. Jeremy Powell has just talked a bunch of times. We've just got CPI numbers. Like, these are the short term. And I've seen it before. You saw the contraction in like 2018. Obviously 2008. I didn't really follow the markets too much, but we all know what happened then. And so as we move forward, I think what's important to realize is the fundamentals of the company really drive the price. Yes, valuation can change in the short term. But as we're kind of currently sitting at right now, I'm actually quite pleased to see Tesla still throughout all the slapping growth has had, still be here at $1,050. And I think what's important to realize is 2022, 2023 is really important for Tesla. And this could be, and you talk about Cathy's price target. She has some full self-driving robotaxi, built into that price target. Whereas I don't look at that right yet. But at the same time, what's important to realize is these next 2 years, Tesla will be printing money. We're talking about now a company that's not going to be, negative EPS, not going to be flat. Like we're talking, some estimates are as high as $3 EPS this quarter. We move, let's say, annualized into 12, 13, 14, $15 EPS by the end of the year. Annualized, those are big earning power numbers on a growth story that is just beginning. So as two new factories come online, higher margin cars, all indications point towards out of these two factories. And so we're looking at monster earnings. Tesla no longer being a longer duration company anymore, where a lot of their growth is priced out. It's going to be soon. So that's why I'm quite just bullish on the next. I think the first quarter we have to get through, but I think after the first quarter is over, I think a lot more money comes back on the table.
Yeah, look, I have been kind of looking at these big companies from a distance also, Yashu. And sometimes I think that there's no company like Tesla who's most true to the vision. I mean, I think Tesla is more true to its vision compared to an Apple or a Microsoft. I mean, its product vision is the company vision. It may not be employee friendly as much as a lot of people talk about it, but I think to its vision, I think the obsession with that vision is pretty much highest with Tesla. Do you feel so? Or?
I think so. And by the way, I was someone who didn't like Tesla. I didn't like Elon, and I know you're telling me the same thing before. Yeah. I didn't understand. I actually, it's funny because now that I talk to my friends, and they know I have the YouTube channel. They're like, wait a second, like we used to talk about Tesla being like, you didn't get why Tesla was priced so high. You didn't understand Elon. I have a lot of friends that were very pro Elon that I would have debates with sometimes. I didn't hate Elon. I think there's a facet of the market that despises him. I wasn't there. I just didn't understand it. I didn't appreciate it. And I think what flipped it for me was when I first went for a test drive in a Model 3. And I sat in the car. My dad was looking to buy a Model 3 at that point. And so he made me go with him. And our whole family went. And I sat in that. I drove the car around. And it was one of those like iPhone moments where like you open up the box of the iPhone for the first time and you're like, oh, this is the feeling that a product brings to you. And so from that point, I was like, okay, there's something more here that I got to look into. I wasn't an instant convert, but it was like, maybe I'm on the wrong side of history. And what I've learned what I've learned about me is that I'm often wrong the first time around. I usually don't believe in something. If something's going to work out, a true test is you have to ask me. If I think it's wrong, it's probably going to work out. That's what I've learned about me. I never understand the true story the first time around. I always have to do a full circle around it. Some people are fast. They get it instantly. Like, that's great. And so for me, I looked through the story and I looked through what was happening. And you're right. Find another business magnet is what they call Elon. Find another Elon in the market. Find another Elon entrepreneur out there. As an entrepreneur myself, how high he aims for his visions, his goals, setting the bar astronomically high, no pun intended, and to a level where, like, if any average person, like if I were to say, look, my goal, Yashu's goal is to make humanity multiplanetary, people are going to laugh, right? And it was probably the same way for Elon at some point, but he pushes through and he says, look, that's still my goal. And I think there's something admirable about someone that can really aim really high. And though they're not going to hit every single one of their goal, it's the effect, right, of aiming in your organization, right? Setting goals that are, a little bit past achievable so you can push and grow and get better, right? I think that's what really makes a true leader, is someone that can, and not only set these goals, right? You talk about leadership, setting these goals are good, but if I set a goal for someone in the organization and say, look, this is our goal this year, we want to 10x. And then I sit on my chair and all I do every day is just like talk around, just make coffee, don't really work. That's different. No one's going to want to be led by someone like that. People like people that can lead, that are in the trenches. And really look at Elon. Who's more in the trenches than Elon? He's sleeping on the factory floors. He's on the way to Berlin right now. He's trying to do SpaceX at the same time. SpaceX might be going bankrupt. So you look at how much problems he's dealing with, everything that he's having to go through, personal life, people making headlines about him. It's remarkable. Yeah, it's remarkable.
Insanely remarkable. And then at the same time, his vision doesn't get affected, right? It's like he wants to be what he wants to be. What the Tesla he thought years ago, he still wants the same Tesla, right? So yeah. I think that's something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing, as much as I like the company, sometimes holding Tesla even now, it's kind of a bit jittery.
Yeah, to say the least.
Is it with you as well, or is it just with me? I mean, it's like $1 trillion company, but it can fall like 8%, even 9% even now.
Yeah.
And then Elon opens his mouth every time, and he kind of doesn't talk straight, right? He talks something which is but polarizing. So do you get that feeling as well, or is it just me?
It's definitely, volatility is a part of just being a Tesla investor. I think it's crazy, right? Because Tesla's a $1 trillion plus company with a beta of probably like close to 2, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Tesla moves erratically I've never seen a company that moves like this. Maybe Amazon back in the day a little bit, but Tesla is just an anomaly in and of itself, the way that it trades the stock. I don't personally care too much. I just for the stocks, that is, because for me, I just have a longer term horizon. I don't even bother logging in half the time. I leave it. But you're right. I have options. If you have talk about leaps, you talk about shorter term trades. Yeah. Sometimes you lose sleep over that a little bit, and I guess that's just the name of the game with Tesla. But again, it's the good with the bad, right? You can't have Elon without having both sides of his personality. It's just what it is. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Elon likes to do stuff now that I think proves his haters wrong. Like, for example, a lot of his haters will say he'll do anything to pump the stock price. And so when he comes out with a poll that's saying, look, I'm going to sell shares, just vote yes or no.
That is, amazing.
How can anyone say
$13 billion taxes, right?
He's paid, he's going to pay $11 billion. He pays $11 billion last year, right? And so how can any hater look at that and say, look, Elon only does stuff to pump the stock price? I think Elon likes to be agnostic with the stock price more and more now, because Tesla's in a position where, they're not going to fail tomorrow. Like Tesla's growth story, they're doing well. Their balance sheet is padded. They weren't in a position where they were when they were scaling up their Model 3, right? So now Elon can afford to do things that are erotic because he wants to show and prove to everyone, like, look, you're either in Tesla stock because you're in it for the long haul, or people that say all the time to Elon, like, look, he does anything to pump the stock price. He wants to prove them wrong as well, right? So I think there's that human psychology element to the stock price, and there's no other stock out there that's tied to one person so much like Tesla is to Elon.
What if something happens to him? God forbid, Yashu. What if, like, it's like, he's talking, in normal company, nobody talks about, I'm raising price 2%, 3%, right? It's like a sidekick doing the job. And here's the world's richest person talking about 2%, 3%. So he's really right inside the bonnet of the car, machines with cars. What if something happens to him?
I haven't seen a key man risk so much on a company since probably Steve Jobs and Apple. Apple and Steve Jobs, rest in peace. He different story, right? He got sick and, he had a problem. He had cancer and it wasn't inevitable, but, people could see that coming. You're right. Key man risk with Elon, what is 100% probably the biggest risk any Tesla investor carries. Without Elon, he's the straw that stirs the drink. I hope in the next 3 to 5 years, he can put in a succession plan for someone as a number 2. I don't know how you find someone like that. I quite liked JB Straubel. I think, obviously he's not with the company now. He's with Redwood, his own company. Zach Kirkland looks like he's probably second in command, but you need that guy or girl that has the engineering prowess, the vision, the ability to come out there. And, if you just take Apple as kind of the template, Tim Cook, right? Great executor. He's always been like the executor for Apple.
Operations,
operations.
Yeah.
And I guess that's good, but Tesla's not at the point where it's just set it and forget it and execute. Well, maybe it is after 4680s come to scale. Tesla's still at that disruption level of growth. So I agree. It's a big risk. Knock on wood, touch black on that aspect. But you're right. That's, in my opinion, that's the biggest risk that any Tesla investor carries. And I don't want to see Elon's insurance bill. It must be like corporate insurance bill for an exec like that. It's got to be like 7 figures, 8 figures maybe, or something.
That's right. I think one thing about Apple though was that when Steve Jobs went, Tim Cook, I think, is one of the wonderful capital allocators. Because Steve Jobs did his job. You know what I mean? He created something, gave a platform, and I think he came out of a very capable business leader, Tim Cook. So maybe, if Elon is, because now the company has already taken off, right? So it's a very different. Tell me one thing. You're pretty young, Yashu, and you're investing. Like, are you Tesla bull to an extent that you put all your money in Tesla, or you diversify?
Pretty close to, I would say, pretty close to. I'm a little bit different in my stage of life where I will invest, obviously, with more volatility, more risk, but I also, the most investment I make is in myself and my businesses, personal businesses. Okay. So stocks, options, sure, they're there for me. But I do not. The first investment, I think the highest ROI I can make is in myself and my businesses as an entrepreneur. And then from there, I obviously own Tesla stock and Tesla options, but I am willing to take more volatility risk at just the stage I am in my life. Maybe that changes later on as I get, family and kids and all this sort of stuff. But yeah.
Okay, I think just a couple of more questions, then I'll let you go. Yashu, Cybertrucks. What's I think I know there's a lot of fun going around, right? There's a lot of nonsense going around. I think there was the stock fell yesterday. I think have you kind of looked into Cybertruck technology and some view on that you have?
Cybertruck, by the way, for anyone listening that doesn't know, like Cybertruck headlines came out yesterday that, hey, look, it's going to be delayed until 2023. Yeah. And for any observer of Tesla, that was pretty much implied already. A lot of those headlines were recycled because Tesla took out 2022 out of their website. And the way I look at Cybertrucks right now, I still have an expectation of fall of this year, winter of this year for Cybertrucks. They need 4680 battery technology, the structural battery pack. They need that's how they're going to work. That's how the semis are going to work. I'm not too worried about Cybertruck right now because I look at the Tesla Semi and they're slated to be 15 semis delivered to PepsiCo by the end of January. And so that for me validates 4680 battery cells, definitely to a smaller scale, but it at least validates 4680 battery tech, right? To deliver 15 semis. And I'm not sure if that's already delivered or will be delivered in the next couple of weeks. And so Cybertruck, I think, is a game changer. I didn't like the design, no secret, when it first came out. I didn't get it. Again, I was it's just not for me. I'm not a big truck guy, but more and more I sit on it, I think it's a game changer. And the big reason why is because it changes the brand appeal of Tesla. If you look at Tesla right now, if you survey 10 of your friends what Tesla is, 8 of them are going to say it's like a sporty electric car company. Cybertruck opens up a pool of not only customers, but investors, I think, into Tesla. You talk to that, and you're in Singapore, so there's not a lot of pickup trucks where you are. But here in North America, pickup trucks are huge. Like Ford F-150s, Silverados, like people love their trucks. They, whether you're a construction worker or just a fake person wanting to be a construction worker, there's that type of person that loves the gas guzzling truck. Like that's what they live and die for, right? And, to each their own, doesn't matter. No judgment here. But for that person to convert that pool, currently, there's no commonality, I think, within Tesla fans and that pool of people. And I think that pool of people is quite important because I think a lot of them are usually, middle-aged. Not to say all of them are, but, a lot of them are middle-aged. They believe in gas. They like diesel. Like they're that type of person, that type of persona. And I think Cybertruck is going to unlock that type of pool of people that, that will like that sort of vehicle. And Cybertruck is going to have amazing specs for what it is. Yes, 2023, who knows, maybe 2020, it gets delayed to 2023, which, by the way, I even kind of almost have a conspiracy on this a little bit, that I think I think Tesla might be wanting to push Cybertruck. And this is with the caveat that 4680s are already running with Model Ys. But let's say if more 4680s are already running and Cybertruck still doesn't come out, and we're like, why? I think this conspiracy I have here is that, why not, if you're Tesla, why not let Ford and their Lightning and all these other electric pickups go out in the market first? Rivian, get feedback, get consumer, because pioneers always get arrows in their back, right? Whoever's first to market with something, that's who you learn from as the second incumbent. So why not let those guys go out, deliver, go through the hurdles, almost upset that group of people if their product's not good enough, get feedback, and then use that to then scale a Cybertruck later on with that feedback. So maybe that's just me with rose-colored glasses looking through why Cybertruck is getting pushed out. Who knows? But I think Cybertruck is actually quite a big deal, and I think not a lot of people pay attention to that.
Okay, I think this pretty much the last question. Yashu, what's your thinking? Could Tesla be? It's anybody's guess. What future is. We love talking about future, but nobody yet knows what future can be. Yashu, but what's your feeling? Can Tesla be the biggest company in the world in, let's say, 2030? If you're in 2030, will it be bigger than an Apple or a Amazon or Google? Will it be bigger than them?
I think so. Look, I think maybe that comes with the caveat that Tesla Energy or Tesla FSD are working at that point. Tesla Energy currently is a very small portion of the revenue and very small portion of their net loss. So really, I think so. I probably think 2030 might be too far out, but I think that's a pretty good conservative. 8 years is a long time. Just for context, we just hit, this year, we're going to hit the 15-year mark of the first iPhone, right? 15 years. Hopefully I'm not wrong on that metric. 15 years. Yeah, 2007.
Yeah, around there, 2007, 2008. I remember buying it that time.
Yeah. And think about how much has changed in 15 years, right? 15 years, obviously life, 15 years.
That's a very good point, actually.
15 years is not a lot of time in the grand. I mean, it's almost 2
for a
decades,
human,
right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, 15 years, you're telling me 15 years ago was when the first iPhone came out. Could you tell me back then, I was only 12 years old, but could you tell me at that point that how the world was going to be today? We're talking on Zoom. I have my phone here. We have cameras. We're live streaming. You're in Singapore. This was not a thing 15 years ago.
Nobody thought of it.
No, not only nobody thought of it, I think people might have thought of it, but no one thought it was feasible. So in 8 years is not 15, it's half as much, but 8 years is still quite a long time for a lot to change in the marketplace. And I think with Tesla, just how many different facets of growth potential they might have, I don't think it'll take more than a couple of different facets for them to hit on, for them to get to that point. Apple is the big killer though, because the more I look at Apple, the more I get bullish on Apple. I hated Apple as a company. I think it's a dog of a stock for the last so many years because it's not innovating, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's renovating.
Absolutely. But I think what's going to change, and hopefully in 8 years when we look back on this video, it's some truth to this. I think their smart glasses is going to change the game, in my opinion. And the reason why I think that is because I hated the idea of smart glasses. And back to my point of I am always wrong at first. I'm coming back around on the smart glass thing. Just like for example, AirPods, right? AirPods are huge. But if you go back to 2002, 2003, do you remember those little Bluetooth things that everyone had? Every delivery driver, taxi cab person had that little Bluetooth. Those were invented in 2001, 2002, 2003, but they were never popular. It's always the second coming of something that makes it mainstream. And so AirPods are now mainstream, but the technology existed years and years ago. So I think smart glasses, Snapchat tried to make it a thing in 2014, 15, even before then. Didn't work. And I think Apple is going to be the company to make it work. So maybe not first, because depending on how much Apple can grow and they got $100 billion in cash or something like that, right? So more than that, actually. And so Apple might be the tough one to catch. But if not first, most likely to me, I think they're second at least.